I realized that it's actually 70% business and 30% creative. Yes, it's fun to do the photo shoots, and yes, it's fun to do all the creative stuff and do the designs, but you need to have a business mind to actually do it.
Today, I am on my way to meet designer and fashion entrepreneur Buki Ojo. She started her journey in fashion at 17 working for Topshop, where she got fired and went on to build her own clothing line. As Buki pursued her love for fashion, industry giants like Asos, Urban Outfitters and Topshop pursued her creations. By 18, her collection was on sale in the UK, Canada and the US. Buki's self-titled brand went on to feature in London's Fashion Week. After distinguishing herself in the industry, she went on to achieve a Master's in Fashion and Entrepreneurship at London College of Fashion and later founded her hugely popular Shoreditch-based brand, 90s Back. Now, as a well-established designer and fashion entrepreneur, Buki has recently pivoted from her vintage store, 90s Back, and founded Seventh, a new but thriving fashion brand. As I sit down with Buki, we start by discussing the challenges, lessons, and successes she gained embarking on her journey into the industry as a young woman of colour. So first and foremost, Buki, I just want to say thank you so much for coming and sitting down and having this conversation with me. I'm really looking forward to hearing your story. And it is just that, it's a conversation. There are no right or wrong answers. And I guess we kick off with, how did growing up in Bermondsey, South East London, shape Buki?
Oh, Southeast. Southeast for me was just the best childhood ever. Honestly, I grew up as an only child, me and my mum. So the way the neighborhood is like, in the council flats, all the children, it's like we all know each other. We were all like brother and sister. So it was, and because naturally I'm a people's person, it was just so nice to be around so many children and the freedom for us to go from one house to another, just the way that the complex is built. But Southeast for me was just amazing. It definitely was the fundamental part of me, being able to be open as a child. Because, when you're only child, it's only you. But I think for me, I kind of got that sibling, vibe. And I'm still best of friends with some of my childhood neighbors from like over 20 years ago. So yeah, it's amazing.
How did that impact your creativity, or how did it fuel your creativity?
Good enough. That's a good question, because there used to be a lot of arts and crafts centers and kids clubs in the area in South Bermondsey. And I feel when I was younger, my mum, she took it upon herself to make sure that she fueled that passion that I had from a very young age. From the time when I was like 3, 4, I just used to love painting. And she would find the local arts and crafts and kids club centers in the area for me to take part in. And that was a fundamental part of me being able to see that I'm a creative. Literally, if it wasn't for those, little hubs here and there in the area to help me kind of fuel this passion I had from a very young age, I think it did make a huge difference. Yeah.
So where would you then say that the genesis of your love of fashion began?
I would say, so it moved from art drawing to more fashion when I was in secondary school. I think from year 6, 7, no, from year 8, 9, that's when I really started to get much more into fashion. So I would always love art. Art was like my number one. And then from art, it moved to textiles. And that was when I decided that I wanted to push it to the next level in college. So in college, I did Brit School. I went to Brit School. So I did the visual arts and design course in Brit School for college. And that's just how the interest really grew in that time, like my later years in secondary school, and then it solidified in college.
And how did being at, the Brit School then shape the creative that you are now?
Brit School for me was definitely the place that shaped me into me wanting to get into design for sure. Before, I was a little bit confused. Even when I was very much interested in fashion, I was still thinking, do I want to be an arts illustrator, or do I want to do something more in art? But then I was just like, nah. When I got to Brit School, it kind of just made it more clear that, yeah, definitely fashion is where I wanted to be. I think because you're just surrounded with so much creative people. Like, everyone is a creative. If you're a singer, a dancer, an actor, everyone is just so creative. And that just makes you want to be more creative. So being in that environment definitely fueled me into wanting to be more, of a creative, I guess.
So you finished at Brick School.
Yes.
What was the next step for you?
So Brit School, I was very confused because I wanted to go to university, but I just didn't know what course I wanted to do. I was just a little bit confused. I was still between that deciding factor. Do I do art, or do I do fashion? I was still having that conversation, even though I solidified that, yes, it's fashion. But I still wasn't sure because obviously uni, there's fees, there's all this pressure to make sure that you choose the right thing. So I applied to a few universities, but I just wasn't feeling it. So I just made a decision that, you know what, I want to take a gap year. I don't want to do this uni thing yet. Let me take a gap year, find out exactly what I want to do in terms of, is it art, is it fashion? If it's fashion, how am I going to start this brand? How am I going to do it? So I decided to take a gap year to work because I've never really worked properly. So that was what, that is kind of the next step basically. And then in my gap year, that's when I decided to work at Topshop. I got my first job. So my first proper job was in British Heart Foundation as a volunteer at a charity shop. And then I was able to use that on my CV to get Topshop. So when I was in Topshop, that's when all the ideas started to come. So I'm 18 here, or 17. The ideas started to come like, oh, okay, I can see me doing this kind of design. Oh, okay, because you're around clothes. So that's how the ideas started to come to me, what I wanted to do. Because at that moment, I was just celebrating for the fact that I had a job at Topshop. Like, it was a big thing back then. That was in 2011, 2010. So that was the next step in Topshop.
So you're 17.
Yeah.
And within a few months, you go from working in Topshop, from working retail to being stocked up, having your creations being sold in retail. Can you talk to me a bit about that transition, what it was like for you?
Oh gosh, it was a crazy transition. So basically, I actually was working in Topshop and I got fired. Was wrongly accused in Topshop by one of the managers, and I was actually fired from Topshop. And but while I was in Topshop, before I actually got fired, while I was in Topshop, I just got the idea of of mixing vintage with African fabrics, because there was this vintage section in Topshop, and they used to do a lot of patchwork on like denim and stuff. And I was thinking, instead of using this, they used to have like plaid patch ups on denim. I was thinking, what if we put African fabrics there instead? And this was in 2011, where it's never really been done properly like that before. And my idea was like, let's commercialize African fabrics. That was back in 2011. Let's bring it to the commercial market. That was the idea that I had. So that was the ideas that I was having in my head. And then when I actually got fired from Topshop, I was like, you know what? I think this idea that I want to do, I want to have my brand in Topshop. I want to have it here. I think this idea could work. So I remember I came home to my mum. I was like, Mum, I've got this idea and I think it's going to work. So I went to the vintage stores myself and I bought some African fabrics from the store on Liverpool Street. And I just cut some fabric and I just started sewing it on myself, literally the needle and thread. And I was like, that's the idea. And my mum was like, this is nice. Okay. So she gave me a few little of her savings. Go and buy some more denim, go and buy some more fabrics, put it together, put your photo shoot together. And I did my first photo shoot and I kind of put together some sort of lookbook. I was just, imagine 18, I was just naive. I didn't go to read any particular books. I just went on Google. I was like, how do you do this? How do you do that? I was just moving. And I just put it all together. And then I don't know how I actually found the contacts for Topshop, because I was working on the shop floor, not on the HQ. I found the contact somehow And I reached out to them and I was like, I've got this great new idea. And I sent them a formal email and everything. My mom showed me, this is how you do, best regards, do this, do that. And I sent it over and they responded and they were like, yeah, come through for a meeting. It was really simple. It wasn't even like hard at that time. I don't know, maybe they just wanted give all glory to God at that point, because I don't understand. Literally 30 minutes and she responded and literally that was it. And I showed them, I did a little showcase and they didn't know I was 18 at the time. I made sure I looked much older than my age. I put my makeup, the heels. I remember I had my whole outfit on and I went there, just gave them the solid handshake and everything. They had no clue of my age until I actually launched with them. And then the story was 18 in Topshop. 18-year-old launched her line in Topshop. So yeah, that was kind of how I got to that phase, and the stuff was in Topshop.
What was the state of like your mental health, I guess, going through that? Because you're dealing with a lot of pressures from being fired. How did that impact your?
Oh, I remember when I was fired, it was a really, 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 really horrible day, because they literally escorted me out of Topshop like I was a criminal. And it wasn't even like a big deal. I don't know what kind of nonsense that was. And I remember my mom coming with all my school certificates saying, my child is a good child. She went to the manager, my child is a good child. Look at all the things that she's done. It was very, very embarrassing. Very, very, very embarrassing. Because it was a very, very minute thing. It was, and it was misunderstood, and I was wrongly accused at that time. So the thing is, thankfully, I had a prayerful mother that was very supportive, very, very supportive. So I didn't feel it too bad, but in that instance, it was very embarrassing. So, but I think that fueled me to be like, you know what, I want to show these people that, I can do more. So, yeah. But it was fine. Like it wasn't like a big deal or anything like that. It was fine. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Move on to the next step. Yeah.
Then went on to studying the miraculous masters at the University of the Arts in London. Could you talk to us about that aspect of your journey and what prompted you deciding to pivot from being a designer to going into?
So I'm now running the brands in Topshop, Asos, Asos. I've been able to now distribute the brand in different places and in different retailers. And it's doing well. They had I had my first buy and everything. And then all of a sudden I realized, especially with the kind of products I'm selling, it's very summer orientated because of the African fabrics. So I found when I got to winter, it was a struggle to make sales. I was just struggling and I didn't know what to do, because the whole concept of the idea was African fabrics with vintage. That was just what the brand was. It wasn't anything more. And it was a struggle. So I realized this thing is not doing well. Like even before I got to that point, we had all the different celebrities wearing the stuff, the Wizkid, the Davido, it was out there, the name was out there. Buki was in everyone's mouth at that time. But behind the scenes, the money was just terrible. The cash flow was just horrible. And I couldn't go on anymore. So I had the option, do I just go bankrupt or do I just stop? Like, let's just stop everything. Like, because all the retailers, they pulled out, like they didn't buy anything more. They had to put all the stuff on sale because it wouldn't sell in the winter. So it was just a really hard time because the sales wasn't working. I didn't know what I was going to do after. Where do I start? Where do I begin? And the only thing, again, my mum would say is it's time to go to school, because obviously I'm from college straight into this business. So she was like, it's time to go to school. So I was fighting that because I was like, no, I'm a designer. I don't need to go to school. I don't need to. And I was trying to prove my point as to why I didn't need to go to school, but the business wasn't no longer functioning, that I had no choice but to go to school. So I said, you know what, if I'm to go to school, I want to make it, I don't want to give up on this dream. I know this hasn't worked out, but I don't want to give up. I want to make sure that I do something for me. So if I'm going to school, it has to be to do with fashion and has to do with business. Because I realized my fault is that I do not know how to run a business. And this is the issue that I have with creative courses. They don't touch on the fact that business is needed. Like, it's nice to do a fashion course. It's nice to, do, creative courses. But as creators, we need to know, how do we make money from our craft? How do we make money from our gift? And they don't teach you that. So I specifically had to look for a course that was fashion and business. And the only course that I could find was this title called Fashion Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And when I heard that title, I was like, this is it. This is me. I want to innovate. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to learn to be an entrepreneur, and I want to learn to be an entrepreneur in the fashion industry. So I remember I saw it and I was like, but it's a master's course. How am I going to get into that? I haven't done a bachelor's degree. And my uncle was just like, just go ahead and apply. You've had industry experience. God is on your side. Anything is possible. And I was just like, okay, cool. So I applied. And when I applied, they said no. And I was just like, oh. But I was like, no, I don't accept their decision. And I decided to write a letter of appeal to them and say, this is not a correct decision. I absolutely disagree with you. And I listed down all the different things that I've done in my industry, in the industry, all the sales I've been able to make, and how the course will benefit me moving forward as a creative. And I stated the fact that, business knowledge is needed for me to grow. And I believe this course is what would give it to me. And I took that letter to church, because I wrote it in a letter, formal letter, took it to church. And I was just like, God, please just do a miracle for me. Just turn this for me, because I believe that this course is for me. I need it. And miraculously, I sent that letter to the course team. And the first person that got to me was like the assistant. And she was just like, look, I don't really think that the course director is going to take you on, but I'm going to send it anyway. But I don't really think, we've already made our decision. And I emailed her back and I was like, look, please just send it, please forward this to the course director, please. So she did. And 30 minutes later, the course director responded and said, yeah, we'll take you on. That's fine. Very short email. And that was it. So that's literally how I got into the master's.
Reflecting on that whole period of your life, what are some of the biggest lessons that you took away from that season?
To be persistent. So there's so many lessons. The first lesson I would definitely say is get education. Don't hide away from education, especially when it comes to, if you're creative, if you're in business, get an education of knowing how to run a business. It's needed. It's needed because it gets real. Because I realize that it's actually 70% business and 30% creative. Yes, it's fun to do the photo shoots, and yes, it's fun to do all the creative stuff and do the designs, but you need to have a business mind to actually do it. You need to, when we're making our designs now, it's like, okay, will it sell? Okay, yes, us designers, we think it's aesthetic, we think it's cool. But the model are we choosing? Does it really, are we connecting to our target audience? So every single decision that we make, every single creative decision that we make has an underlining business perspective. And that's what most creatives don't know. That yes, you can be the most creative person in the world, but if you don't have a business perspective, then you can't really make good decisions, and it wouldn't be able to sustain you financially when it comes to business, because it needs to make sense business wise. So that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. Go to school, learn to get a business, business degree, whether it's a short course or whatever it may be, to aid you in your creative career. And secondly, I would say to be persistent and to resist, persist, consist, repeat. Literally just be consistent, be resistant, insist for what you want, and don't give up. Because the first time started the brand, I failed. Second time I tried it again, I failed. And it's only the third time is seventh, which is the brand you see today, I'm here. So it's like the third go. But all throughout that journey, from college to uni, in that journey, I've seen that just being persistent, being consistent with that goal that you have, that desire that you have, and not giving up. I think that's just the biggest lesson to learn.
And going through those troughs and peaks, what has your relationship with failure become?
That's a good question. Relationship with failure, I would say it's more so a lesson learned. Like I'm so happy that I've had those failures. I would say I think it's aided me to where I need to be today. It's not a failure. It's more so just a lesson learned. That's all. But it will be a failure if you stop. If you don't continue to try, then it would be like I failed and that was it. But as long as you continue to try again, then it just becomes a lesson. Yeah.
So, you mentioned that you grew up as an only child with your mom, Dorothy. How did that mold you?
Oh, how did it mold me? I would say so many lessons. She molded me to go for what I want. She molded me as a Christian, as a born again Christian. She taught me serious Christian values that has aided me to be the woman I am today, because my faith is what has kept me in every single stage of this journey. If I did not have faith to go, to write that letter of appeal, to stand for what I wanted, that's all supernatural faith principles that she taught me. Faith to believe that, I can make it regardless of the failure, regardless of me not the first business not working out, I can still move forward, that God will make a way. She's molded me to have this non-stop believing mentality. And that's what she's molded me to be honest. And I think I can see the fruits of it today. And she's molded me to be independent and to be independent, because I remember when I first started the business, she didn't even be there to be like, okay, do you need help with this? Do you need help with that? She just said, okay, here's a bit of my savings, do whatever you like. She didn't even see, okay, I've given you the money, what have you done with it? Nothing like that. She just let me do what I needed to do. And I think that independence of making decisions on my own and moving from one phase to another has helped me to be who I am today, learning to just make that decision and move forward, not having to have billions of opinions around you. Yes, have your counsel. Oh yes, I have my counsel. I have my coaches that are by me every step of the way. But sometimes you need to get to that point where you need to make that decision for yourself. And she's taught me that for sure.
Amazing. And I know that you come from a generation of an entrepreneurial woman. Your grandmother, she has the farm. Yeah. How has that then impacted or informed the decisions that you've made moving forward?
I think that, seeing my grandmothers who are very entrepreneurial in what they do has helped me to always think forward, because I think we look at our grandmothers as entrepreneurs and as these great women that, did these things, with property and, whatever they're doing. It was to provide for their children. They had to use their initiative to say, what can I do to bring money for the home? What can I do to provide for the children? What can I do to provide for my children's future? They were just using initiative, and they were just taking opportunities to move their family forward. And I think that same mentality of just using your initiative to make ways and to provide solutions to move yourself to the next level is what is helping me today. Like even in my business, I'm constantly having to use initiative to think of solutions. Okay, this is not working. Okay, what can we do to make it work? And that's entrepreneurship. You're constantly looking for solutions to move from one phase to another. And I believe that's literally what our grandmothers and our parents have done before us, even coming and relocating to London, relocating to UK, or using the initiative. Okay, what can I do to make this work? What can I do to make this work? So even though they may have done a 9-to-5, like my mother was a 9-to-5, but she used a lot of her initiative to put things together. She was very much into property, so she used her initiative to provide. And, as a single mother, she made it work. And that's what I'm using, those same attitudes and values and beliefs in what I'm doing today.
Who would you say Buki is?
So Buki is a driven person. When she has her mind on something, that's it. There isn't any question about it. There's no wondering, pondering. It's just that, like, I just focus. Very driven. A people's person. I love people. If I come into the room, I want to know your name. I know where you're from. I want to know what your dreams are. I want to know where you're going. I want to know your passions. I'm that kind of person that just loves people. I just love people, and young people most especially, which is why I'm doing On a Mission, which is another project that I will talk about later. But I'm a people's person. And I would also say I am a faith girl. So I'm a Jesus girl, I call it. I am so embedded in my faith. My faith has become me. Everything that I do is in faith. Every single step that I take, my attitude, my mentality, the way I think, the way I dress, everything is just around my faith. That, in terms of attitude, my perspective is faith-based. So when I say, I want to build a 7th HQ from ground up, I want to buy a land, that's truth to me. That's me in my drivenness, but also, again, in my faith as well. I know that's possible, so I feel like driven, motivated, and a people's person, and a faith girl. I'm all about the faith, and it shapes my world. And I feel like my faith is what's gotten me to where I am today.
How important do you think it is to bleed your identity, your life experience, your culture, and your heritage into your creativity?
That's an interesting one. I think it's definitely important. I feel like my personality is the personality of 7th, in the sense of 7th is a family-orientated business. Like, even on our bio, it says welcome home. We want our customers to feel at home. We want our customers to feel loved. We call our customers bro and sis. Like, it's all family, people orientated. We even have our customers come into HQs or into our HQ, or we involve them in our campaigns. It's very people orientated. So that value of mine is definitely embedded into 7th. Our tone of voice is very much like me, very bubbly, very upbeat. And that's embedded into 7th. And also when it comes to creativity, I would also say being able to, a lot of our creativity is candid moments. It's not very fixed. I'm a perfectionist, but there's a certain part of me that loves reality. I love realness. So a lot of our content is shot when the model doesn't even know that we're shooting. And that actually makes our content so much more real. And that's me. I'm all about realness. I don't like things so put together and perfect. I like the fact that it's not perfect. And that's also played into our creativity when it comes to our content as well.
Looking back into your journey and your entrance into the industry fashion, and you kind of combining that bringing Afrofusion to the table, do you think that you have played a part in diversifying the fashion industry?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because once that line launched in Topshop and all those retailers, so many different brands started to come up. I don't want to claim that I'm the first one, but I think I'm one of the first people to do it in terms of that Afrofusion. And after that, it was just popping up from that point onwards. I had loads of people coming out with Ankara bags and all sorts of accessories, and all these things just started to come up one after the other, for sure. I definitely feel like I'm part of that transition of, brands beginning to embrace African culture, for sure. Because high-end brands are doing it now, It's a normal thing, that was a task, that was a mission, that I wanted to normalize African fabrics. That was a mission, and it's complete. Yeah.
You recently lost your mum. How has that impacted you?
Yeah, my mum passed away 2 years and a few months ago. And I think the way it impacted me, funny enough, for me and my testimony, it impacted me positively. It impacted me very, very positively in all different areas. First of all, it definitely taught me the value of life, the value of good health, It's one thing we take for granted. She passed away from cancer. So I saw her health deteriorate before my very eyes. And sometimes, even to this day, I can't even, sometimes it's hard to remember her, how she looked like before she was ill. That's how serious the illness was, and how health is literally wealth. And that has definitely played a part in my lifestyle, making sure that I do eat well, and, you know, I do exercise and all of these things. And also internally, I feel like her passing gave me some sort of crazy drive to keep pushing. And I got to that point where it's like, you know, I'm her only child. It's not even like she has loads of children. I was just like, nah. When she passed away, I was just like, nah, I have to be her testimony. I have to be like, this is Dorothy Okotie's daughter. Like, I have to represent her, and I have to be her testimony. No one should pity me. No one should be like, you know, she just had a child, you know. Oh, no. I was like, no one should pity me. No one should feel sorry for me. I'm going to make her proud. It gave me that unusual drive to be like, you know what? I need to make this woman proud. This woman did too good. She was such a good woman, you know, and she didn't deserve what happened to her. And I need to make sure that whatever is left of her, I'm the only seed left from her, that seed should just take over. That was the mentality that I had. That seed should make an impact to its generation. The seed that she's left behind must leave that legacy that she left in me, because she was very people orientated. She used to run Bible studies for the youth in the community. She used to get funding from the government to take all the children in the neighborhood out to Chesington and to Fort Park. She used to do so many things for the community. And I said, you know what? That legacy that she's left behind, I need to carry on. I'm the only one to carry on, and I need to carry on. So it gave me that motivation to keep pushing. Of course, it was very difficult to adjust, because that's someone that the only person I've lived with my whole entire life. So to adjust from not her being there but the thing is, I feel like that year in her illness, she wasn't there, because I couldn't really communicate with her like I used to. So I did have that year to kind of get used to not her being present, you know, but still, it's still a huge, I'm still adapting till this very day, you know, and it's just a matter of, you know, learning to be independent. Because to be honest, I grew up very, like, not to say I was spoiled, no, but I was very well taken care of, I have to say. So even paying bills, I didn't know how to even top up electricity or gas. I only just learned that after she passed away. I had to be like, okay, I'm the one that's taken over the house now. I need to know how to do this. I need to know how to do that. So I've learned independence. It's really molded me in terms of independence at home, independence and making decisions on myself at home, you know, and I'm literally grown into a woman. I can actually now say I'm a woman now, you know what I mean? Like I'm on my own, and I'm a woman. I'm a woman. I can see myself as a mother now, you know, I can see myself as a wife now, because it's like, I've been able to hold down the home on my own. So, but yeah, it's impacted me positively. I'm to say, as a conclusion, it's been a positive impact for sure. It's been hard, but by the grace of God, it's worked out for my good.
How have you balanced building resilience and looking after your mental health within the grieving process?
Yes, I think I've had the right people around me. Have to shout out to Life Builders consultancy. She's like my mother. She's been my coach since 2016. She kind of took over in that sense of making sure I would communicate with her, let her know how I feel. So that person, you need to have someone that you can communicate with. I had good friends around me that I could just release my emotions to. So I have my time where when I'm at business, I'm at business. And when I'm at home, I need to make sure that I'm grieving and I'm letting all my emotions out. But I make sure that I don't bring that into the workplace. So by the grace of God, like I can't say I can do. For me, I don't believe that a normal human being can do it on their own without being negatively affected. For me, by the power of God, I've been able to come to work and focus on work, and go home and cry. So I've been able to have that, you know, that strength to go to work and still smile, because it was literally just 3 weeks after. I planned my mum's funeral. I did all the planning. I was the one running around. I was the one sorting everything out whilst everyone was crying helter and skelter. Supernaturally, I was the one saying, no, okay, can we please have this there? Can we please have that there? I was the one delegating everyone and telling people to calm down. And it was my mother, and I was telling them, no, we're not doing that now. We need to sort this out. We need to make sure this burial goes. But for me, that wasn't me, because I'm an emotional person. But supernaturally, I've been able to just hold it together and do what needs to be done. But then when the closet is closed, I'm gonna let everything out and have the right people around me to talk good things into my life, to talk good things into my mind, because it's all about the mind, and you need to make sure you have the right people around you. I'm listening to the sermons, I'm listening to to my coaches, I'm being encouraged. Words is so powerful in such times. You need to have the right words around you. If you're having pity of people saying, oh, sorry, oh, sorry, oh, sorry, oh, sorry, for too long, you can have that in the beginning, but when it goes on for too long, where they're petting you for too long, you stay down. But you need people to bring you up, saying, no, Buki, yes, we've had our crying, but okay, where do you want to be? Or what we're going to do now? Or what do you want to do now? So you need to have that around you. And I feel that helped me so much, so much.
So Buki is Dorothy's legacy.
Yes.
What is Buki hoping her legacy is going to be?
I love hearing that. Buki is Dorothy's. I just love hearing her name. Buki is Dorothy's legacy. I love that. Legacy is youth. I want to be able to make an impact in this new generation of people like this. When it comes to, I'm already feeling like I'm starting on that with this new project that's called On a Mission. And On a Mission is for people that are go-getters, people that have a dream, or are walking in their dream, but they need that motivation, they need that encouragement, they need opportunities to meet with like-minded people. I feel like the legacy for me is to bring people together. Comes back to that trait of mine of being a people's person. I want to be able to bring a community of people together that are on that goal, on their mission, on their dreams, to be encouraged and inspired by like-minded people in that community, and for us to all come together and grow and level up together. That is what I want. I want to be able to make an impact on that young girl that says, what, I don't think I can do business. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I want to be able to give inspiration to such people that feel that they can't do it, or people that have failed in the past but don't know if they can get back up again. I want to be an inspiration and to motivate such people, and I want them to come into this space. I want them to come together and be inspired and to move from one level to another. I also want to be able to really make an impact on the creative industry as well, when it comes to blending business and creativity. I feel there's a huge gap and it needs to be blended together. So I want to be able to have impact in universities and colleges and see how we can begin to implement business into courses and to schemes that they're putting out there, because we've got so much creative people, musicians, artists, and they're constantly scammed by business. You hear of loads of people, they were signed and then this happened and then the contract and they didn't know. And it's because they don't have any education. There's that missing link. So I want to be able to, have bridge the gap between creativity and business and put it together, and have impact within make a difference within the educative system, that they make sure that in all creative, in the art schools, even back down to secondary schools, they need to start implementing some sort of business aspects within the creative courses, because you can be creative, but if you don't have any business background, then it ain't gonna work. So that's the impact and legacy I want to leave behind.
Amazing. And I would love for you to define what home means to you.
Home means peace. Home means rest of mind. Home means I'm at the place of where I need to be. I'm in my destiny. That's where home is for me. The definition of seventh is rest. So I got 7 from the scripture in Genesis 2:2, and God rested on the 7th day. So 6 days God created the world, and on the 7th he rested. He looked at the whole creation and he said, this is good. So on that 7th, he looked at what he created, and he was satisfied. He was at rest. He was at peace. There was no complexities. There was no issues. It was just peace, peace of mind. And that's what home means to me. And that's what 7th is. It's home, it's rest, it's peace. Even, when you finally find out what you want to do, that's home. Like, oh, I'm finally here. Like when I arrived at 7th, when this brand started, I realized that, oh, this is home. This is where I've been trying to get to. This is home. When my team members came, like Emmanuel, the creative director, when he came into the team, I was just, the way we related was just like brother and sister. Like I've known him for years. I was like, this guy is home. Even when it comes to all the other team members, it's like, as it came in, I was like, this is home. This is family, so it's destiny, connecting with the right people at particular times. And you look back at it and it's just like, wow, this is destiny. This is divine. I don't even know like how this has happened, but this is home. This is where I'm meant to be. So that's what it means to me.
So now we've seen the evolution of Buki. We've gone from, retail to selling to retailers, to then going into doing a master's. How important would you say evolution is in a creative's success journey?
Now I look back and I'm smiling as you're saying that, 'cause I'm like, you know what? It's good that the journey has been what it's been, because it's much more relatable. Like if I was to say that, I started a brand when I was 18 and it popped off and I was amazing and now we're global. It's not much story to that. It's just a nice, quick success story. But what I find is when you've gone through the highs and the lows and the ups and the downs and the failure and the ups and the rising and the everything, that is what people can relate to. That is what gives people hope. Hearing this up and down, that is what gets people inspired. And now I look back, being a creative and seeing this journey, I say that I feel like it's not just for me, but it's for the people out there that feel like giving up and feel like giving in. I feel like this story and this evolution has helped me to not only learn and to develop as a creative and as a businesswoman, but also the story is now what people are being inspired by today. And it's only just beginning. There's just so much, I'm only just at the very start of 7th. So I'm sure we'll have loads more stories from here. But even just this 10-year evolution has definitely groomed me to be who I am today, in terms of being very, very non-emotional with my decisions. As a startup, as a creative, we're very like, yes, I see this and I see the models and I see this, and it's very creative and very emotional. But now I'm just like, yes, we're very excited about this colorway, but is it gonna work? Like it's the mentality has just changed, and that's through the evolution, through me seeing that look. There's summer and there's winter seasons. We need to make sure we're catering for summer. And if it's summer, what do people like to wear? Okay, let's do some trend research. That wasn't what I was thinking about before when I first started the brand. All I was thinking about is that I want to put together African fabrics, and that was it. There was no thought processes about it. But the evolution has allowed me to now be very, very thoughtful with how I go forward with all my decisions. And and I believe that other people can learn from it now. And I'm still learning from other people. I'm still a student boy. Yeah, so.
Were you ever scared in the process?
No. Yeah, and the thing is, when I was young, I wasn't scared. Yeah, I wasn't scared. In the beginning process. Even with 7th, I was quite decisive. I was like, do I want to give this a 3rd try? But I was like, nah, let's just do it. You have to get to that point where you just have to do it. Like, when you're scared, it will stagnate you. You'll be there wondering, okay, is this and you're gonna just lose opportunities. Like, if I was stumbling and wondering and worrying, and I wouldn't have made a decision. I think that fearlessness comes from my youth, being young and just being like, you know what, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna do it. I haven't got much responsibilities. That's another thing. I don't have a child. You know, my circumstance is different, which probably plays into the fact that I guess I wasn't scared because I don't have to pay rent. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. So it wasn't much of a thing for me to be scared of, I guess. But even though I've invested thousands of pounds, but still that should be something to be scared about. But I think it's just that drive. But when I was scared, it wasn't making the decision. It was when things wasn't working. That was when I was scared. I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? But when I now got back on my feet and was able to do, you know, get into reselling and Camden Market and all those things, you know, I think that's when my confidence came back again. I think for me, it's as long as I know what I'm doing, I'm okay. And with God on my side, it should work for me. And that gives me the confidence as well and the fearlessness as well.
And how did you deal with the uncertainty of when things were not working?
Again, I'm gonna have to bring it back to God again, literally. When things are not working, it's very, very testing and very trying. But when it comes to you understanding that this is more than just a fashion brand, but it's a mission and it's destiny, it's your destiny, it kind of resets your mindset to know that, you know what, this has to work because this is destiny. This is what God has planned for me. So it has to work. So even when things, even in the business now, when it goes through, you know, little ups and downs, I have to remember, okay, I know that this is destiny. This is what God has planned for me. And it has to work. We have to there has to be a solution. There has to be a way out. So I feel like in those times of uncertainty, it's the mentality. It's your mentality. And that's taken years for me to work on. Mentality, thought processes. What's your thought saying? What are you pondering about? What are you meditating about? That is what will determine what decisions you'll make, whether you make things in panic mode, or if you get to that point where you can settle back and be like, you know what, this is going to work. This is I know things are not doing well right now, but I believe that this is going to work and we'll make a solution. So at that place of rest and calmness, you can now begin to make correct decisions. But when you're in panic mode, you can't. So that was one of the things that my coaches have definitely helped me, is to rein it in, go low and slow, calm down, think through what is the solution. You know, this is your destiny. You know, this is going to work for you regardless. What are the decisions that you want to make? How are you going to make them? But if I'm in panic mode, I can't even think. So it's like it's a mind game, and it's the thought processes that make a huge difference when you hit that uncertainty period.
So we're at home now. We're at 7th.
Yeah.
But before getting to 7th, we were at 90s back. Could you talk us through that transition and what prompted the transition?
90s back, baby. Yeah, so 90s back. So basically, at that time where I was like, okay, I'm going to uni. Sorry, I need to take some drink. Sorry. Yeah, so when I said I wanted to go back to uni, I needed to make some money. So I was applying for jobs all around town, to LV, to all sorts of high-end brands. I mean, I've got something on my CV that I've owned a business. I should be able to get into somewhere. No brands with nothing. No one responded to me. No one got back to me. And again, my mum was just like, well, you've got a garage full of leftover denim that you used to use for your fashion brand. Why don't you just go to the market or put them on eBay or do something with them? Why don't you just sell them? And I was like, no, I don't want to go to the market. I don't want to do that. Like, please, like, that's not my level. Like, I'm still not even humble at that time. I'm still like, look, I'm doing my master's and I just want to do baby girl life, you know. But she was just like, I ain't giving you no money. You need to go and get a job, or you need to go and sell these things. So I didn't have any choice at that point because she put a lot of pressure on me at that time. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go to the market. I'm going to give it a try. So I took some vintage denim to the market. First tried at Brick Lane. It didn't really work out well. Then I went to Camden Market and it worked out really, really well. I made my first £200 in a day. And I was like, this is good money. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to do market on the weekends and then school on a weekday. And this market thing became a thing. I was selling the vintage and it was selling. I was growing my own little customer base. I would set up my little stall outside. And even though I didn't really want people to see me, like people who I knew, I would literally hide. Like I would literally go into the toilet or somewhere and I'll say, oh, I'll literally say to my neighbor, can you just watch my stall and just watch it while I quickly go to the toilet, not knowing that it's someone that I know from church or someone that I know from, they knew me from my brand back in the day. So it was a very humbling time. So as I was doing the selling of the vintage, it was doing really well. And then my neighbor who had her stall next to me, she was just like, why don't you do other things like sportswear? Because at that time I was only selling the stuff that I had. But because it was doing so well, I actually wanted to now invest into it more. She was like, why don't you do some more sportswear, or, the 90s stuff, like windbreakers, or suggesting things. And I was like, you know what, it's a good idea. So I went on Google and I started looking for vintage suppliers. And I actually now started to get into reselling. So my master's was rounding up and I was using my reselling business and I was basically selling all the vintage. I was now using that money to fuel my second round at starting up a brand again. So the second round that I tried to start up again, it didn't work. So I continued on with the brand, with the vintage business. And then I was like, you know what? Let me just focus on this because this is working for me. And at this time, that's when my mum was diagnosed with cancer. And that's when I realized that, you know what, this is my only means of income because mum was now not working anymore. So that financial dependence was completely gone now. So I said, you know what, let me focus on this. This is my priority. And my neighbor used to call my neighbor, she was a Jamaican woman. She used to be like, whenever I would leave my stall to her, she would say, come get your 90s clothes. The 90s is back. Come get your 90s clothes. Because by that time, I was investing into 90s looking clothes. And I decided to call it 90s back because of her song that she used to sing to invite customers into the stores, into the stall. And 90s back was born in 2017. I officially registered it in 2017 as a business. So this was my first time, going properly into business again. And we grew and grew to the point that the management of Camden Market was like, oh, we really love your stuff. You're doing well. Your stall is growing. Why don't you take one of our indoor units inside? You can get yourself a little store indoor. And I said, yeah, sure. So I moved from the outdoor stall into an indoor store. And this was amazing because it's like, I don't have to be in the rain anymore. I don't have to be in the snow anymore. I have my own little place. I can get a little microwave. I can get a little heater now. Like it was luxury living for me. And that was a time where my mum decided to give me all of her savings to invest in this vintage brand, bless her soul. And I invested into it, got the little shop set up and everything, and it did so well. And then we moved from Camden to Shoreditch, and that was in 2018. We did a pop-up in 2018. My mum passed away in 2018, and we did a pop-up in Shoreditch in 2018. And in that December of 2018, I said, you know what, I want a store in Shoreditch. And initially I wanted a store at Box Park, but I said, you know what, I want a bit of a bigger space. So I found a shop on Shoreditch High Street. And then I got that shop there. And we launched the shop there in 2019, February. Was it? Yeah, it was 2019, February. Yeah, damn. It's not that far away. 2019, February. And we launched the store. And then a few months into 2019, I was like, I don't want to do vintage anymore. I was like, yeah, I'm done with it. Not only because my interest began to just go, it was more of, I just didn't want to go, like the hustle of vintage. You have to go to the warehouses, searching. It was a lot of stress. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't see my future in this. I want to go back to the original plan as to why I did my master's. All these things that I did before. Why have I forgotten all of it now? It just started to come back to me. Because obviously the success of the vintage business was great, but it was only for so much time that I could handle it. And because my passion wasn't truly it, I think I was excited because it was making me money. But because if a passion of yours is money orientated, it won't last. But if you have a passion truly from your heart for that thing, it will last. And I decided to go back to my passion in 2019. And I still named it. It was still under the name 90s back. And it was only in November of 2020 last year, that I changed 90s back, which the brand I changed from 90s back to I changed the vintage brand from 90s back to a fashion brand in I can't remember the date, in September. Yeah, I changed it in September of 2020. Yes, I think, or 2019. No, 2019. September of 2019, we changed 90s back from vintage to a brand. And then in 2019 or 2020, one of them ones, we'll put the dates on the screen. It was changed to 7th. And that was it. Quick transition, very quick, very snappy. And it was destiny because the right people came at the same time, at the right time, when I needed it. I just started remembering the right people that was needed. And it just quick, straight in there. And that was just miraculous. Yeah.
So what is next for 7th and Buki?
Next for 7th is literally for us to build foundations this year. We've only just come out, 7th is just 1 year and a few months old. Gonna be 2 years in November, or in September, sorry. And our next step is literally just to grow and expand our range. Is to do more collaborations with creatives. Is to grow our company as well internally, our teams, and literally just take over the full fashion industry. To be honest, and we want to be that brand that is not just known for its fashion, but known for what we do for people. Like I said, we're people's brand. So we want to be able to affect our community positively. We want to be able to give young up and coming creatives a chance, platform to be seen. We want every single bit of our content to have purpose. We want, to be able to support youth and young charities. We want to do more for our community. That's what we want to do. We want to have impact on people's lives. It's not just about selling clothes, but it's having impact on young creatives. That's what we want to do. And we want to be that essential brand that people have in their wardrobes. It's easy to wear. Our goal and what 7th is simplifying people's lives with purposeful product. That we want our products to serve a purpose in people's lives. So, and we want to make it easy. Our goal is to make life easy, restful, no stress. We want to just look at our hoodie and know that, yeah, I can match it with that jumper. I can match it with that pants. Make it easy, which is why all of our colorways, as you can see, all of our colorways are very much in line with each other. We make sure that every shade matches each other, easy to mix and match, just easy to wear, comfortable, clean, simple, easy. It's essentials. It's what you need on your day-to-day. So it's being that essential brand that makes your life easier, as well as being that brand that's for the people. It's our whole goal is around people. What can we do to make people's life easier? What we can do to make people's lives better? What can we do to impact the lives and move people's level from one stage to another? How can we impact and how can we inspire? That's 7th. That's where we're going. That's what we're doing.
And what would your advice be to any young creative at the beginning of their journey?
I would say the advice I would give to any young creative is to make a decision. That whatever they're going to embark on, decide that you're going to stay there. Don't give yourself a time limit and say, okay, if this thing doesn't work out by September the 5th, I'm done. No. At the very beginning, once you've made your decision to move forward and to make and to do that business or whatever you're doing, stay there. If you say you want to be a singer, stay there. Don't give up. Don't give up on that dream. Don't give up on that decision. Stay right there. and take whatever opportunity that comes by. Like for me, the opportunity of selling vintage was not an opportunity that I wanted to take, because I'm a designer. I don't want to do no selling or reselling, but it's an opportunity that I took, and it aided me to where I am today. So stay on course with that vision, make a decision, stay there, and along the journey, take whatever opportunity that comes, because you never know, that odd opportunity may lead you to where you want to go. Because that vintage has led me to Seventh. But if you look at vintage and Seventh, it's like worlds apart. But it was that vintage opportunity, selling in the market in Camden. If you look at the two, it just doesn't make any sense. But that opportunity aided me to where I am today. But in my head, I still decided that I wanted to have a brand. And that's why I decided to switch. So even though you have that vision, whatever opportunity that comes that may look a bit offline, still grab it, because you never know where it may take you. And that's it.
And what are any final words that you have for us?
Woo! We've spoken today. Final words, I would say, is come to On a Mission. That's what I would say. So we have On a Mission is for young entrepreneurs, young contractors, creatives, people in business, people who are freelancing, people who are doing 9 to 5, but they're trying to figure out, how do I add business to my life? How do I even improve in my current, 9 to 5? How do I move from next to levels, and people who are already doing things as well. I want to be inspired. So I'm looking for Leonard to come, you know what I mean? People who are doing things, and I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to move myself up to one level. I want us to all gather together, come into one space, and let's encourage, let's motivate, let's learn, let's grow together. There's room for everyone to win, you know what I mean? So it's just like, I'm inviting you, if I'm allowed to put this on here, I'm inviting you guys to come. Obviously, we're going to be very selective in terms of people coming in, but we want to make sure the right people, the right mindsets are coming in, But, my hope is that to leaving that legacy of inspiring, impacting, and encouraging, because everyone has a dream. It's just a matter of having the right company and the right people around you to aid you into that dream. So last words I have to say is, don't let go of the people around you that are there encouraging you. Keep them close. Keep those friends close that are encouraging you, pushing you to move forward. Be ready to step out of your comfort zone. Be ready to make a decision and stand by it regardless of the challenges. Don't, throw in the towel because something is not working out well. Be ready to make a decision and stand by it and keep moving forward. And that's my last words I have for today.
Thank you so much. And where can we find Buki, and where can we find Seventh, and where can we find On a Mission?
So you can find Buki on Instagram mainly. I'm working on the gram. It's still work in progress. So even if you only see 4 posts, still give your girl a little follow. It's at I am Buki. And Seventh is Seventh Stores. We can find us online as well, seventhstores.com. And On a Mission as well, just on Instagram right now. But On a Mission will be held here in our HQ once a month on a Sunday. But the Instagram is On a Mission Group. So that's where you can find us. And yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for being present, for being vulnerable, and for really allowing us to see the woman behind the brand. For just sharing the power, behind the pivot in sharing your story.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it.